I know that sound.
Thank you, Rob. Good morning, County Council. I'll call our meeting to order this morning. Please rise as you're able and join us in singing O Canada.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll call, please?
Councillor Mackey, Councillor McKay, Councillor Carlton, Councillor Pringle, Councillor McQueen, Councillor Nielsen sends his regrets, Councillor Allwood, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Dickert, Councillor Kentner, Councillor Keaveney, Councillor Body, Councillor Gregg, Warden Milne,
Present.
Councillor Dobreen, Councillor Matrosovs, Councillor Bourdignon,
Present.
Councillor Eccles sends his regrets today, Councillor Hutchinson.
Present.
We have all members in attendance with the exception of Councillors Eccles and Nielsen.
Thank you, Tara. I want to begin this morning by respectfully acknowledging that we are gathering on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. And further, we give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, known collectively as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the traditional keepers of these lands and waters since time immemorial. To our south lies the traditional territories of the Six Nations of the Grand River and the Haudenosaunee. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to forwarding the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and friendship with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Is there any declaration of interest regarding any item on today's council agenda? Seeing none, if one should arise during the course of the meeting, of course, you can declare it at that time. First order of business is the adoption of the minutes from May 9th. That's including the council and committee of the whole minutes from that date. Is there someone that would care to move that? Councillor Mackey, Councillor Carlton, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. And also the closed committee of the whole meeting minutes of that date, May 9th as well. Would someone care to? Councillor Keaveney and Councillor Dobreen, any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. There are no closed meeting matters, no reports. We have one bylaw, which is the confirming bylaw. Someone care to move that, please? Councillor Body, thank you. Councillor Patterson, any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. News and celebrations. And to start off this morning, first of all, I want to welcome Director Myers back. She has been absent from this chamber for quite a little while, and I have sorely missed her. So welcome back, Savannah. Good to see you. Other good news is this is Paramedic Services Week, and paramedics play a vital role in the well-being of our communities. Last year, Grey County paramedics responded to more than 15,000 calls for service. That's incredible to think. That's a lot of stuff to look after, and they provide responsive and professional care when it was needed most. As we all know, paramedic services have evolved beyond the role of first responders. Grey County community paramedics are active in the community, performing outreach with marginalized populations who struggle to access healthcare in traditional settings. Our home-based community paramedicine programs continue to grow with nearly 3,500 home visits and 700 phone visits in 2023 for 450 rostered patients. Yesterday, here in this chambers, I had the opportunity to attend the Paramedic Week luncheon, which is always a good thing, and it was very good. There's Kevin. Yes, the lunch was awesome. And more importantly, to hear about the great work that we do and the wonderful people doing it. It was a touching event that included awards and a very special reunion of a resident and the paramedics who resuscitated him and helped save his life. I was honored to be part of that. It was truly incredible to hear the gentleman's survival story, really is what it was. So thank you to all of the paramedics and wish them a happy and successful Paramedic Services Week. Yeah, absolutely. But not to be outdone, it is also Public Works Week. I don't think our paramedic response times would be quite what they are without the superb roads maintained by the Grey County Transportation Services Department. Our transportation staff maintain 887 kilometers of roads both ways and more than 300 bridges and large culverts. In the winter, they keep our roads cleared, plowing in the most treacherous of conditions. This time of year, they're busy with maintenance on our roads and roadsides. Looking more broadly across the county, public works staff are responsible for many of the services that keep our local communities running, including water, sewage, and waste management, amongst many others. So thank you to all public works staff right across the county, both at the county level and at the lower tier. Thank you very much. And as I think I heard Pat say yesterday, it's hard to compete with heroes. But on the other hand, you know, it's very much a team effort. So we're all heroes in that respect, or you're all heroes, I should say. Anyway, anyone else have any other good news or celebrations? Andrea does. Excellent. Yeah, yeah, that's right. It is indeed good news, but I'll let her describe it. Andrea.
Thank you to my colleagues. But the warden and councillor body and I all attended the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence AGM last week in Montreal, and it was indeed a success. And there are some key features of it that I hope that this would be the appropriate time to share. We celebrated the successes that we've had in the past, but we focused this particular time on the blue-green economic transformation. And when we look around our county table and think, well, not many of us have big ports like Port Colborne or St. Catharines, what does that really mean for us? It means very much. Each and every one of our communities has a vital link to its shoreline, and what we do with our Great Lakes is very important, that we have a role in the environmental, the economic, and the social sustainability of our community next to such an ecosystem that we need to protect, as well as be able to live with and in coexistence. And so certainly part of the conversation about that was tourism. One of our industries is tourism. We have people that come here because they want to explore our beautiful communities, and often that is because it's integrated into the Great Lakes water basin and everything we have. And I would like to expand that role, that beyond the shorelines, and we look at things like coastal resiliency. As Councillor Mackey said when he came to the regional event that we had in the town of Blue Mountains, he has even more shoreline because of all of the rivers that we have. So every one of our communities here in Grey County has an integral link to the Great Lakes Basin, and we need to apply that wholly. So some of the celebrations we have is that because of the work that the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Initiative has done on the national scale, we were a contributor to the formation of the Canada Water Agency, and that's going to be $440 million in funding beginning this year over the next 10 years, and there'll be further dedicated funding from that. That also includes flood mapping too, and we're so fortunate here in Ontario to have our conservation authorities who are the experts in our watersheds. But in Quebec and over on the other side of the border in the States, they don't have that same benefit. So that is certainly something that we need to continue to see all of Canada benefit from, and it will help with the resilience that we need against climate change adaptation, which is another one of the focuses. Now, this is just good news and celebrations. I can't go any further, but I'd like to leave it to my colleagues to add anything else that they'd like.
Thank you, Andrea. And I would very much like to point out that Andrea received an award at the AGM. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was the most committed member from Ontario to the organization. So on behalf of Grey County Council, I want to congratulate you, Andrea, on a successful award. Thank you very much. Councillor Body, you were at the same event. Perhaps you have anything to add?
Just Andrew doesn't toot her own horn enough, but she's also gone on to the Committee for Water Equity, I think. So it was called, yes. 4 members of it, 2 from Canada. She's one of the 2, which is going to be some heavy lifting, and great having the representation from Grey County on that. You know, the mayor of Milwaukee was there. The mayor of Chicago was there with a whole bunch of bodyguards. Mayor of Montreal, like mayors from all over the Great Lakes. So it's a pretty major event with some big players there, and we got to connect and network with Huron County, the warden, and a couple of councillors. A lunch that was pretty important, and people from across the states and archipelago, and you know, all around. And it's all talking about water, climate change, water quality and protection, as well as the economy this time. So it's a pretty good event, and it's great having Andrea representing Grey County and on the North American stage, frankly. Thanks.
Thanks, Ian. And I would be remiss also to note that a big piece of the conference was the Indigenous First Nations participation. They're very much involved, as they should be. And it was interesting to talk to some of the representatives from the different regions in the Great Lakes Basin. When you see it on a map, and I have a couple of pictures on my phone of it, but it was a floor of a gymnasium, and that was a map of the Great Lakes Basin, drainage basin. And it was, you could walk on it, and you know, you could see, you know, here. It's pretty impressive to think how big an area is taken up from that region, and how much water actually accumulates and goes down the St. Lawrence River out to the ocean. It's very impressive, and how important that water basin is to all of our livelihoods, no matter what you do, whether you're in industry, whether you're in agriculture, whether you're in tourism. It's very important. And again, I want to thank Andrea for her leadership in that organization. Ian, you have something else to add?
Just that reminds me, if we can ask Kim to put onto her agenda, that map is a Canadian geographic map. It will tour. We would love to get it here and be able to show it to kids and our Indigenous, the Indigenous community in the area. It's a great opportunity, but it's touring and we can get it. And otherwise I might forget to mention it later. Thanks.
Okay, anybody else want to try to top that? Councillor McQueen.
Don't think I can top that, but just want to bring some an update with regards to our Ram Rodeo that's coming this weekend to the Feversham community area. And so just in the sense of what's happening both days, Saturday and Sunday, Feversham Kinsmen will have a buffet breakfast, gates open 11, 12 is the free kids rodeo presentation, 2 to 4:30 is the rodeo performance on both days. And then on the evening, Saturday evening, there's Feversham Kinsmen will be doing a dance with the singer Kara Smith, or the Kara Smith Band. And if you are so thrilled to come out and see the rodeo, there'll be the Canadian Cowgirls, barrel racing, pole bending, bull riding, bronco riding, bareback riding, trick riding, rescue race, and junior competition. So a fun-packed weekend. If you Google it, you can see where you can buy tickets online. If you buy them online, it's $10 savings. So hope to see everybody out.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else? Councillor DeBreen.
Thank you. Good morning, Warden and County Council and guests. I just wanted to bring or acknowledge Councillor Hutchinson for his 5 years on the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. He was absent when we presented the plaque, but he received it this morning. And I just wanted to say how important it is for our conservation authorities in our watershed to have that continuity of service through term over term. So thank you very much, Councillor Hutchinson, for your service to the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority as Vice Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, Councillor Kentner, go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. I'd just like to mention, everybody knows about Meaford's 150th, our sesquicentennial, but I'm really, really pleased with the support we're getting from the hamlets of the municipality of Meaford. And just mark Sunday, June 23rd on your calendars for a good old-fashioned strawberry social. We haven't enjoyed those in, what, 30, 40 years? And I think it's Bognor is a great location for that, and it's so great of the people there to acknowledge the 150th of Urban Meaford. So just mark that on your calendars, June 23rd, Bognor, for an old-fashioned strawberry social.
Thank you, Ross. That sounds delicious. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. I need a motion to adjourn from the council meeting. Councillor DeBreen and Councillor McQueen. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We'll just take a moment to change over to Committee of the Whole. Thank you, Rob. I'll call our meeting here this morning, Committee of the Whole, to order. Is there any declaration of interest related to any item on this agenda? Seeing none. We have no business. Is there any business arising from minutes? Any delegations? I don't believe we have any. Determination of items requiring separate discussions. The consent agenda is there. Does anybody wish to have any of those withdrawn for further discussion? Councillor Hutchison.
There we go. Yes, I'd like to pull 6F, please.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any others? Not seeing any. I'd entertain a motion to receive the balance of those. Councillor Hutchison, seconded by Councillor McKay. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Items for direction and discussion. The first is the mileage expense reimbursement policy. I need a motion. Well, the motion is there. Would someone care to move that, please? It would be received. Councillor Dickert, Councillor Carlton, thank you very much. I believe Kim is speaking to this, so go ahead. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Good morning, Council. The purpose of this report is to ask for your support this morning to change the county's method of reimbursing mileage expenses for business travel that's undertaken using a personal vehicle. We have a current formula that we adopted back in 2008. And what we're requesting this morning is your support to change that to the mileage rate that the Canada Revenue Agency publishes annually. There has been, as noted in the report, a growing gap between the county's formula and the CRA rate. This has become concerning because under the Income Tax Act, if someone is paid at a rate that is not considered reasonable, either it's too high or too low, the mileage compensation becomes a taxable benefit. As noted in the report, if mileage becomes a taxable benefit, then county employees would need to track their detailed, as would you, track their detailed costs for vehicle operation and mileage driven, and the compensation received, and include this in your annual tax filing. The county in turn would need to complete a Form T-2200 for everyone who claimed mileage in any given year. So there would be quite a bit of administrative burden on everyone in this whole process. So using the CRA published rate has an additional step compared to what we do now. Right now, the county sets its mileage compensation rate every year based on that formula. Under the CRA process, there's 2 levels of mileage rate. For the first 5,000 kilometers that you claim, you are paid at one rate. And once you've exceeded 5,000 kilometers traveled, the rate changes, it declines. I would say most people would never get to that 5,000 kilometer rate. But the step down is meant to, I think, acknowledge that once you've traveled that 5,000 kilometers, some of those basic requirements for insurance, et cetera, some of that has been covered off. And so the mileage then steps down from there. The report is asking council to support this change effective June 1st. We really do want to be within that reasonableness test in what we're compensating everyone for. We will work to get updated claim forms and policy documents rolled out to everyone as quickly as possible. As noted, again, at the end of the report, based on what kind of travel expense claims we've seen in previous years, we expect that, this final 7 months of the year would probably amount to be about an increase of about $34,000 across the whole corporation. And we believe that much of that might be able to be covered off within existing budgets. If there's a need to go to the one-time funding reserve or elsewhere at the end of the year to reconcile all of this, that's certainly something that we can do. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Councillor DeBreen.
Get it started. Thank you, Kim. You explained it really well. I'm confused because I'm unsure of what this means to the requirements for filing of paper. The requirements of the county, but also our lower tier municipalities that follow or have adopted the county rate. So this not just affects county, but it could affect the budgets of any of the lower tier municipalities that incorporate that mileage rate. Is this a requirement? Are we compromised by not following the CRR rate? Is this going to simplify it for everyone once all the paperwork is filed? I guess I'm just wondering. I don't even know what I'm wondering, but if you could help guide us through that, thank you.
I'll start and then maybe Mary Lou has some comments as well. Certainly, for anyone who's claiming mileage, if we make this change, the form that you use to claim your mileage is going to be updated, and the rate that you're compensated at will simply convert to the CRA rate at 70 cents rather than the 50 cents that the county is paying now. We will also, over the next few weeks, then have to undertake a tally of the amount of kilometers that have been claimed year to date, so that we can make sure that everyone is being compensated appropriately if there are new people who exceed that 5,000 kilometers and need to drop down to a different rate. As far as the member municipalities, this is not meant to force anyone to do anything. The county, we've heard from staff that there have been concerns. And so this is what brought this to our attention. And we looked into it further and realized that perhaps the formula that we had been using since, as I just said, 2008, perhaps wasn't accounting appropriately for the way some costs have changed. The cost of insurance, the cost of vehicles, and then again with fuel prices, et cetera. There are a lot of variables that go into that calculation, and some of them I think have changed in significant ways that the original formula perhaps wasn't meant to account for. So this is protecting us from having to, I think, retroactively go back and deal with things for this year or potentially for previous years. So we want to be on a good foot so that we're not having to go back and do a lot of additional work. Should there be a challenge to this, but I'll leave it there. And Mary Lou, I don't know if you have anything to add about the lower tiers. Thanks.
I think a number of the lower tiers have already moved to the CRA rate, and I know that there's a few that still use our calculation. We can work with those that are still using our calculation and provide them numbers if they choose not to move to what we're going to do.
Thank you, Mary Lou, and thank you, Kim. Any other questions? Counselor Deckard.
Thank you, Warden Milne. Thank you for the report, Kim. My question is, well, I do support this. You see it in, private enterprises adopted this, and you see it pretty much across the piece. I just wondered, has there already been any investigation in looking at pool vehicles or rental vehicles? If you're going over 200 kilometers a day type of thing, has that been investigated to offset any costs in the future?
We have had conversations around the table a number of times. We did look into fleet probably 3 or 4 years ago now. I am aware that some of our member municipalities, and I'm thinking of Town of the Blue Mountains specifically, has had some real success using pool and fleet vehicles. We do have a few. I think our challenge with at the county level is just the huge geography that we cover, and where does the pool vehicle sit? and in order to make that useful for people to be able to go and pick that up and then take it to where they want to go. So there has to be some efficiencies there as well. I think, as we go through this, that starts to be maybe on a departmental basis, you start to look into this a little further. It's one thing as well to think that you could have a pool of smaller vehicles that were just meant to get staff from A to B, but some of our biggest drivers are in the transportation department, and a little car isn't the vehicle that they're often needing. And so again, is it cost effective to try and have like pickup trucks and things like that? I think that then gets to a different price point, and maybe there are less savings there. So it's a lot to consider, and we'll continue to look at that. Some places, ask staff to, rent cars for trips and things like that. But again, you're into that availability and efficiency of being able to use that. And it's simply not here in this market. But your point is well taken, and we continue to monitor that and to see what is available out in the marketplace for us to take advantage of.
Thank you. Counselor Gregg.
Thank you, Warden. And my question is along those same lines. I just want to ensure that I think it's beneficial where we encourage rental vehicles to be used when they can be and should be utilized because there's a decrease in liability and subsequent, any sort of an accident or issue arises, car theft, whatever. It's easier to wash your hands somewhat than if it's a personal vehicle involved. So I'm a big supporter of seeing us try to prioritize rentals if at all possible. And I was trying to extract out of the document, like who exactly this pertains to, because I can see where some county employees would probably, maybe in social services as well, have to utilize their own vehicles for a lot of clients interaction. So I was trying to glean from the document who this really pertains to. If there is an element of personal travel involved in the business trip, then there is the conversation to be had about the taxable benefit that maybe should arise from it. So I wonder if I could just get a little bit more insight on who this pertains to and how it pertains to people that are driving. The report notes one individual already exceeding 5,000 kilometers, I think. So what are the departments most impacted? And I certainly would have been more comfortable if we could have. I hate using funding from reserves mid-year. So I would have been more comfortable if we could have implemented this on a go forward on January 1st.
The general rationale, 70 cents a kilometer, no problem. We do have a green and gray policy that it would be nice to see us apply the green and gray lens over top of it and support if a Toyota Corolla or an EV is far cheaper, that our policy is applied in such a way that there is motivation to be rewarded for a more climate friendly, reduced greenhouse gas emission vehicle, perhaps than a half ton or 3/4 ton that might have higher emissions. If that's the policies we're going to adopt as a corporation, then we should be looking to apply them at every opportunity. So those are my questions, comments. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Greg. Randy, you could maybe speak to climate change and the green fleet aspect of things. That's been a conversation, and I think Mary Lou, you have some comments as well.
Yeah, with respect to the green fleet, so we're obviously looking at opportunities to install various chargers throughout various locations, including at this admin building, as well as other facilities. We're currently waiting for some grant funding announcements as it relates to some of the MTO grant funding to be able to maybe move forward with some of those locations. That will help not only support fleet, but also potentially support some public charging when those chargers are not being used, depending on the location of those chargers. So we are looking at that. That's the first piece. We need the charging infrastructure in order to be able to look at then opportunities to support an EV fleet of vehicles that aligns obviously with going green and gray. So that's just a status update on where we're at with the chargers. So we worked with Transportation Services to look at a fleet green plan, I guess, and looking at how we can move towards a green fleet. Obviously, some of the vehicles that are on the market are possible, but we need that charging infrastructure in place first before we can start moving forward with those, moving the yardstick, so to speak.
Thank you, Randy. Mary Lou, did you want to add anything?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. So with respect to Councillor Gregg's question on who is involved, the two primary departments are transportation and housing services. So we've got inspectors that are going out to job sites, and you've got tenant services who are going out to our various buildings and the people that are managing projects. So those are the two departments that have people that exceeded 5,000 kilometers in 2023. With respect to the question on not preferring to do this as part of a budget process or at the beginning of the year, we did discuss this at senior management last year during the budget process and removed it because of the cost. Now we've seen, the increase in fuel costs, and as Kim's mentioned, the cost of vehicles, et cetera. So the original policy that was created in 2008 really leaves people not being fully compensated for the cost of having to drive their own vehicle. And if we had all the housing people going out at the same time, we would need all these vehicles, right? So it's still beneficial to us if staff are willing to drive their vehicles. And with respect to using the one-time funding reserve, that we put in there as the last choice. So if the budget is insufficient and cannot accommodate it, then we would go to the one-time funding reserve. Otherwise, we're looking for departments to try and make this work within their budget. And part of the policy we'll talk about, obviously you're trying to be responsible in how you drive. So if, where are you going? Can you make one trip versus two? Things like that. And I hope that helps to answer.
Thanks, Mary Lou. Do you have a follow-up, Councillor Gregg?
Thank you very much, and thanks for the response. It does help. Most of this is certainly what I was concerned with is if people are traveling to, I'll use a conference as an example, that it's not that we're just rushing people into their personal vehicles and that we encourage perhaps rentals for such an occasion. But that explanation, I think, is insightful in terms of this is individuals. Now we're speaking with convenience and being able to respond to the job and what it entails. So I'm comfortable with that explanation as well. The last part of the explanation of that becomes managerial. So, you know, I believe in the employees and the managers and the corporation. So, you know, it's in their capable hands in determining how they're implementing the staff to go over their job. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Councillor Matrazos.
Thank you. Through you, the chair. I'm in support of shifting this policy and doing it now and halfway through the year. Yes, it would have been, we've just heard the reason about why it didn't come forward, but we have to remember that we have to be in an attractive workplace for people to contemplate coming here to work here or to stay here. So when we're looking at retention of human resources, I think this could be a significant factor. I certainly know that I'm holding on to my 2015 Subaru Outback manual standard as long as I can because my family can't afford to add a new vehicle. And if somebody's looking at taking a job here and they're thinking, well, I don't know if I'm gonna, if that's actually gonna cover the wear and tear on my vehicle, I would hate to think that we lose somebody good coming here, or that there's somebody here who doesn't stay because they have a better compensation in another place. So I think that that's part of it. We certainly at the Town of Blue Mountains, we are following the Canada revenue stream. That's how we do it. We have some struggles about the geography just in our small postage stamp of our municipality. So I can imagine that the pooling would take some negotiation. We're using it where we can, but at the same time, one person starting their day, their schedule of what they need to go and do, rather than needing to drive to some central location to pick up a vehicle, that will add time and that will add cost as well. So, but I certainly want to make sure that when we have good people working here, that they feel that it's not going to be an encumbrance because there's going to be too much demand on their vehicle and that they're not getting the adequate compensation for it.
Thank you, Andrea. Councillor Body, okay.
Thank you, Warden Milne. I'm a little bit off the edge here with Councillor Gregg. Do we have a policy in place now for car rentals? As he talked about, I know at the city we've got a policy that we've forgotten about. We had a contract with certain car rental companies to get discounts. And if we're going to conferences and things like that, then we'd rent. And the reason being, we had an employee several years ago that was in an accident with 3 or 4 people in the car. Luckily, they weren't injured, but employees, where's the insurance, where's all that type of stuff? If we don't have a policy, then maybe at the end of this, I'll move that we get a report to look at a policy. And I'm not sure if there's one there now or not.
Thank you, Councillor Body. We do have, there actually in the research underpinning this report, there are a number of policies and guidelines in the county that touch on aspects of what we've discussed this morning. So I think one of the conversations with finance and again with Director Cornett or Director Moreau was thinking that we needed to pull all of that information together into one place and get that out as a concise document. It does talk about rental. It does talk about your responsibilities as far as insurance and having a license that's in good order and communicating that to us, etc. Like there are a lot of different pieces that go into this. And so we want to use this as an opportunity to really refresh everybody's memory about what the requirements are and what we expect. Absolutely. And as far as the rentals go, most of the car rental agencies do have a government rate that you can ask for. I'm not aware that the county's negotiated a specific one that would provide us any additional benefit over and above that, but the government rate is available and people are advised to ask for that. Thanks.
Okay, I think we've had lots of discussion, not necessarily about the report, but nonetheless, good discussion. Are we ready for the question? I think so. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. The next report is regarding a land purchase of the new Durham Paramedic Base. Sure, Deputy CAO Randy Schertzer is going to take us through that report, but I need a mover and a seconder. So who would care? Councillor Pringle and Councillor Mackey. Randy.
Great, thank you, and good morning, everyone. So this is a follow-up report regarding the purchase of lands for the new paramedic base in Durham. So earlier this year, council directed staff to conditionally offer to purchase lands from West Gray for $150,000 to construct the new paramedic base. And I'm pleased to say that West Gray has agreed to sell the lands for that agreed upon price. The offer to purchase was conditional on several matters. One was conditional on conducting a title search, completing an environmental site assessment, as well as entering into a cost sharing agreement with West Gray as it relates to the county share of the road and servicing works that are being constructed by West Gray this year. In terms of the site investigation results, so for the title search, County Legal Services staff conducted an initial title search. There were no concerns or issues that were identified that cannot be addressed as part of the land transfer process. In terms of the environmental site assessment, we hired GM Blue Plan following an RFQ process. They conducted an environmental site assessment on the lands. They concluded the potential for environmental impacts or risks associated with either on-site or off-site sources is considered to be low. We've also hired GM Blue Plan to do a soils and geotechnical analysis on the site. This is to further supplement some soils and geotech work that West Gray had done previously for part of the subject lands. So we'll be able to have now soils and geotech for the entire property. This will help to inform the final design work when we hire a contractor to construct the building. We also did an archaeological assessment. So field work was conducted by an archaeologist. We haven't received the final reports yet, but we have confirmed with the archaeologists that during the field work, they found no archaeological finds during their investigations. In terms of the road and servicing cost sharing agreement, so as noted, West Gray will be installing roads and services not only to service the paramedics base lands, but the police station, which is also starting construction this year. Staff are in the process of finalizing a draft cost sharing agreement with West Gray for our proportionate share of the road. This will be similar to the Rockwood Terrace Early Works agreement that we entered into with West Gray. So what we're using would be the distance of the frontage of the paramedic base lands where they're building the roads and services. We would use that as the calculation to determine what our proportionate share of those costs are. So based on an estimate, the current estimate of the road and servicing works, it works out to be approximately $200,000 plus potential any contingencies plus taxes. So the actual proportionate cost won't be known, obviously, until we get West Gray receives the tender results and until the actual project is completed later this year. But that's based on the estimates that we've received so far. So we're in the works of trying to complete that cost sharing agreement with West Gray. And once we have a final draft, we will bring that back to council for your consideration. This is just showing the draft R plan. This is currently being done also by West Gray's consultants through a surveyor. You can see in blue the paramedic base lands. Part 4 is the area that I was talking about where the road and services will be installed. So again, that will be used as the measurement area to determine what our proportionate share of the road and services will be. The green is the rest of the road and services that West Gray would be responsible for. And then the West Gray police station lands are shown in pink or red there on the screen. In terms of the design build tender, so staff are in the process of finalizing a draft design and design specifications, and those will be included in the design build tender RFP document. And what staff are recommending is that the RFP release following subject to council support of this motion that's before you today. Grey County climate change staff were successful in applying to a program through Enbridge. And this program basically allows you to get access to energy experts who will help develop an energy efficiency plan for whatever building that you're constructing or proposing. And some of the energy efficiency recommendations will be incorporated into the design specs for the Durham base, including things like air source heat pumps, LED lights, things like that, just to, again, help keep the energy costs low for this building. The overall stormwater design for the paramedic base lands, as well as the police station lands, as well as the remaining portion of lands, which we understand could be a future subdivision, will be completed by West Gray's engineering consultant. And this will help to ensure that the overall stormwater design for all those lands will be done so that everything ties together. So we don't have isolated stormwater ponds on individual properties. So this is something that we hope that will help overall save everyone's costs as it relates to stormwater design. Here's a drawing, which is also included in the report, showing the proposed elevation drawings for the building. So these drawings have been completed in-house by Aaron Whitney. He's in our housing department in consultation with, of course, paramedic chief Kevin McNabb, as well as paramedic services operation manager Jeff Adams. So they've been busy trying to finalize some of the design specs, which of course will be incorporated into the design build RFP. So that we're hoping that 80% of the design will be essentially completed, and then the contractor will just be finishing up some of the details as it relates to mechanical, electrical, things like that. This just shows a draft floor plan, which again is also in the report. In terms of next steps, again, subject to today's motion that's being considered by council today, legal services staff will then work with the Alliance and West Gray's lawyer to finalize the purchase and transfer the lands. And a bylaw will be brought back to council to authorize the actual final transfer of the lands. West Gray's consultant is, as I noted, is currently working with a surveyor to finalize the reference plan showing the property boundaries for the paramedic base lands. And we'll pay our proportionate share of the survey costs for that survey, as well as any legal costs associated with the land sale transaction. Staff will work with West Gray to finalize that cost sharing agreement I talked about. And again, we'll bring that back to council for your consideration. And again, staff will finalize the RFP documents and hope to issue that soon. And once we have the tender results, again, that will come back to council for awarding that tender. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Randy. Are there any questions? Councillor Gray.
Thank you. And through you, Warden, question regarding just the schematics or the drawings here and how they relate to Craigleith. That was the example provided a few months ago. Is this kind of a postage stamp of Craigleith, or is there substantial differences in terms of scale, additions, offices? It's noted there's 3 here, wellness room. Are any of these additions beyond the earlier comparison that was provided to council? And if so, what's the justification or the rationale for alterations?
Go ahead, Kevin.
So we used the Craigleith base as the template plan, and we kept to that as much as we could. There was a recommendation, and you see this more and more with bases, of having a wellness room, a separate area for staff to go to decompress after the call, to meet with peer support. So we did incorporate that in and the rest areas. But overall, the basic template kept the same of that. And when you look at the base and the garage area, that is the similar to what the Craigleith base is. The administrative side is that logistics area, which we did talk about, that would be a part of this plan, that our logistics space we've outgrown in Owen Sound, and we will be moving logistics and supply management to the Durham area. And that's also where we'll have our second supervisor at that area as well. So that was part of the original plan too. The idea is now is that we have this template done, that we could reproduce this with a 2-car bay to go to other areas of the county for cost savings. That I would say we took a pretty reasonable approach when you look at plans that are out there for paramedic bases and what they consist of. And again, making it functional, at the same time cost savings wherever we could. So
Thanks, Kevin. You're good? Okay. Any other questions? Counselor Kentner.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Warden, just is there any um, analysis at this point of the potential impact on this facility of the loss of those 10 beds at the Durham Hospital? Just, is there any sort of do we know how that is going to affect one way or another the need for and the size of and everything to do with it? Thank you.
When we look at paramedic services in relation to the hospital, what we look at for is for paramedics is response and the area of response. So for us, Durham is the appropriate place to have a base based upon the population there and where it's geographically located. It is good to be close to a hospital, but for restocking afterwards, it's not a requirement. We do see pressures on our system though, with the hospital losing its beds, particularly when we're talking next week of what those pressures will do at the end of the day when they have to relocate patients out of the emerge to other hospitals, and what that will they rely upon our services to do that? Because now with the hospital being closed and we could potentially lose an ambulance from that town or more, if there's 2 or 3 patients, what does that look like for our service, particularly at our busier time of the day, and also a shift change as well. So there are some ramifications from this that we still have not had discussions yet, and but there will potentially be pressures on our service.
Thank you, Kevin. This is a good question, but and a good answer, but I don't want to go off into that right now. We're gonna probably have further discussion later on. Any other questions? Kim, did you want to?
Just the bottom line, I think, to your point, Kevin, is that Durham is the right place for this base. No matter what happens, this is the place. And our external consultant, ORH, Kevin did have them look at this and run the numbers and evaluate again. And I think the response, the information that you got back from them confirmed that, you know, the Durham commitment is the right one to make.
Thank you, Kim. Counselor Body.
Thank you, Warden. Just a quick question. Grey County already owns a pretty big chunk of property there. Is there any reason why we couldn't put it on the property that Grey County owns already, or why are we going external? Was it considered, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, that definitely was considered in terms of the overall kind of vision potential for those lands that are outside of the Rockwood Terrace lands. You know, we're currently exploring the ability to use those for supporting housing projects in the future. Plus the access point for these lands right off of Grey Road 4 provides quick access for emergency vehicles. So in fact, we're going to be designing it so that there's an emergency vehicle exit for this property, so that it gets right directly onto Grey Road 4 as quick as we can. So based on the location, based on some other factors, we looked at the various properties, and this one definitely stood out as being the top choice and the top recommendation for staff.
Thank you, Randy. Any other questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Randy. 5 to 11. Do we want to take a recess? Yeah, I see a couple heads are nodding. All right, we'll recess and we'll reconvene at 11:05. 1 minute warning. Okay, we are ready to roll here again. Welcome back, everybody. So we will now deal with the one item that was pulled regarding the West Grey Judicial or the South Bruce Grey Health Center decision regarding the Durham Hospital. So Councillor Hutchison, what is your pleasure, sir?
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Warden, and through you. I'm sure everyone's aware of the announcement by South Bruce Grey for the 10 inpatient beds closing in Durham. So obviously everyone's aware the community's been very active. We've also, West Grey Council endorsed retaining a legal a lawyer firm to represent us on the legal side of this and what we could do. So we're asking basically for your request and join us because we think the impact goes beyond not just West Grey Durham, but into Grey County. So that's where we're at. We're looking for your support.
So I guess procedurally, we need a motion. Tom, did you talk to the clerk or does she?
No, well, Mayor Eccles announced to me this morning that it's or late yesterday, and I believe he may have discussed, I'm not sure, because he made an announcement to go to Toronto for today.
Okay, so what we have here is correspondence from West Grey. The recommendation is to receive for information. If you'd like to amend that or propose. Just looking for it on the screen here. So there's what we have in our agenda package. That's what is being recommended by staff. So I'm looking for your direction from you, Tom, as to what you'd like to do with that.
I would move, yes, I would move this, yes, thank you. I want to double check it.
So you're moving for this to be received for information?
And I was looking for something.
I'll ask the CEO to perhaps she'll have a way forward out of this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Warden. And thank you, Councilor Body. I was looking for that. I'd seen it and I couldn't put my hand on it. So the correspondence from the sorry. Staff received. Okay, there. Council approval. Corrected the work municipality. Yes, thank you. That's the one that I thought I'd seen that one. Or that's the one on the screen that I would move. Thank you.
All right. Now we know what we're talking about. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor DeBreen is seconding the motion. Discussion, questions? Councillor Gregg, we do have the option to go into closed session to get direction from our legal staff. Jacqueline is here, but if you have other questions that would be appropriate ahead of closed session, by all means. Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Warden. I think it's great the municipality of West Grey responded quickly. The request for a judicial review, I think you have to make that request within 30 days of a decision. So it would seem that you've responded quickly. At this table, and you spoke the words, I think. I'm more comfortable with responding to what I know. And at this point, I would be more responsive to a report coming back from staff that outlined and detailed the impacts to Grey County. And before we really push forward with input on this, it'd be nice to know what are the impacts. I mean, we've had staff comment verbally at times, just put on the spot, but I'd be more comfortable with directing staff to provide something more detailed in terms of how this would play out and its impacts to the county before we just align ourselves with the judicial appeal. I know there's 30 days, so it's time sensitive, but it would seem that you've already initiated that, which is great. But I think there's a whole lot more information that the council could learn from staff, given the opportunity to put together an appropriate report.
Thank you. And I think it would be appropriate to go in camera to discuss what our options are and how things might play out. So I'm going to ask for a motion to go into closed session. Councillor Mackey, second by Councillor Dickert. All those in favor? That is carried. And I'll ask Jacqueline, Kim, and Randy. And anyone else?